Well, today's Remembrance Day. To me, Remembrance Day is all year. Used to have an old family friend that was in the Second War. He had two brothers and a sister. He was the youngest. He had to lie about his age so he could go to war to fight with his brothers. His sister stayed back in London, Ontario to help supply the war in a factory. And I was very, very fortunate to know this gentleman. And, I used to talk to him about the equipment that he used to run, or different types of equipment. And I know it's a sensitive subject to talk to some war vets about the war, but it was really awesome to know somebody that was in a war, to talk about their life experience. And he would talk sometimes for a couple hours, sometimes only for a few minutes. And then after he stopped, then that was where we left it. He used to run a tank, and that was his job in the war, to run a tank. And he would say if it had that certain brand engine, he would take any mission. That was his good luck charm, to have a certain brand of engine. And he'd talk about different missions that he was on during the war. And one time I was just asking him about different things about the tank, and then I know he got talking about a story. He said, him and his buddy were going out on a mission that he got to know there. And he said he looked over one moment and the tank was there, and the next moment the tank was on fire, and it got some heavy artillery to it. He said, and then that was it, the end of his story. He said, I looked there one minute and it was moving, and the next minute it was gone. But that's something you just hearing all the stories, it's hard to really understand and to feel what these people went through. But it's still pretty awesome to know somebody like this. And we may not ever been in a war firsthand, but just to hear these stories, it's come to appreciate these people that much more. That's something they got to carry for the rest of their life. But it's pretty amazing, they got three brothers out of London, Ontario. His one brother was a tail gunner in a plane. The other brother started out being like a candy striper, helping out in the medical field, and then worked his way up. When he left the war, he was a doctor. And up to a couple years ago, he was alive, the one brother, and he was in England, still living in England. But my old friend, he passed away there about 4 years ago, so that was kind of sad. But he was one of those people that everybody wanted to talk to, and he talked to everybody, and an easygoing person, not very tall of a person. But yeah, he'd talk about some of these wild stories. But yeah, whether you have family or friends, or if you don't know anybody that's been in the war, I just think Remembrance Day is not, it's too short. Because every day, I think about my old friend and some of the stories he'd say, and I was glad to know somebody like that And then throughout the travels, I've met one old gentleman, friends of somebody that came from Glencoe, Ontario, and he was a strong farmer, and their tank was hit. And when the tank was hit, they couldn't get the hatch open, but he was so badly wounded, he was gonna probably die anyways. But what he did was force the lid of the tank open, and then immediately after that, because he used all his muscle and force to get the tank open, he passed away. But he allowed everybody else to get out because the tank was badly damaged, and people would have died in there because they couldn't get out. But since he was a big strong guy, farmer from Glencoe, Ontario, he got everybody out. So that was a story I heard there from one old timer there a couple of years ago. He had friends of that knew that person. But yeah, Remembrance Day, I think about it every day. But everybody have a good day. Enjoy your freedom.